Hello Team FD and welcome back to the UCL review. It's the last one of the season in the group stage, that is, because of course round of 16 coming up and we'll be covering that extensively. And there's no one else I'd rather be presenting this with than your cheruby face, Patrick Van Straan. How are you?
Hi.
All good this morning? Energetic?
Yeah, I love the group stage, mate. I'm all about it. I love the group stage of the Europa League as well. It's quality.
Thursdays.
Though actually, the Champions League was not as dull as I thought it would be this week. Often the last match of the group stage is rancid. But Bayern Munich and Ajax, despite the fact they were both through, played out an absolute classic. Now, they finished top of the group with 14 points for Bayern, 12 for Ajax. But Ajax had a chance to pip them and they really went for it. It was really exciting, though Bayern, in the end, obviously got the draw and they progressed to the round of 16 unbeaten with 4 wins and 2 draws. Now, the last time they went through the group stage without losing a match was under Jurgen Klinsmann in 08-09.
Not a vintage period.
Though they have, to be fair, had
side.
some rough groups in that time. They've had Man City on a couple of occasions. But anyway, the lineup as well, they named the same starting 11 in the third consecutive game. First time that's happened since February 2013.
That's obscene. It's just because either Robin or Ribery has been injured every other game in that period, I'd imagine.
Pretty much. But anyway, Robert Lewandowski, a good game for him. He scored a brace either side of a Dusan Tadic tap-in, taking his UCL tally to 8 for the season. That means a goal every 67 minutes. In fact, 80% of his shots have been on target in the competition this year. Unbelievable. Now 21 goals in all competitions.
Still
not
got
bad
it.
After a slow start to the season. On the other hand, Thomas Müller had a night to forget. He actually equalled Philipp Lahm's record of 105 Champions League appearances for Bayern on the night, but marked it by getting a red card for basically kung fu kicking Nicolas Tagliafico in the back of the head. Absolutely staggering scenes. Anyway, Kingsley Coman, he had a little bit of a better evening, got a goal. 22-year-old's first 19 minutes of UCL football this season, and a little bit of a boon to him after he said recently that if he got another serious injury which required surgery, then he would possibly consider retirement.
And Zach and McCubbin covered that story extensively on Football Mundial. Go and check that out if you've not watched it already over on Euro Football Daily. But talking of goals and renaissances, Patrick Van Straan, Dusan Tadic now has as many goals since he left Southampton as Southampton. Let that sink in. That is my favourite stat of this match week. The man is in scintillating form.
He's got 20 goals across the league and Champions League now, right?
He's got 13 in 21, but he's been involved in 20 goals in 21 apps. He's only the second player to register back-to-back UCL goals for the Dutch side in the Champions League since Jari Liedtman in 95-96. And he's got 4 in total, so the first Lancer, that is the nickname, to reach that total since Wesley Sonk in 03-04. Very satisfying name to say, Sonk. Providing some much-needed consistency and really bringing Ajax back to the fore in Europe's premier competition. The 30-year-old, like I said, been involved in 20 and 21 apps for a goal involvement every 93 minutes. I don't think anyone envisaged him having that impact when he left Southampton for what, 10, 12 mil?
Almost nothing, I think, yeah.
What a steal this has proved to be. But he had a more than able cast around him. And I've got to say, I think Hakim Ziyech stole man of the match for me. 3 shots on target, 4 dribbles completed from 6 attempted, 3 key passes, so chances created for his teammates. That was a game high, and 4 tackles. Little beast. A lot of headlines afterwards saying that he's worth 175 million euros. He's going to move to one of Europe's premier clubs. Liverpool apparently linked with him yet again.
He would actually have been a great alternative to Fekir in the summer because he's actually much more of an 8 than Fekir is. But I mean, there was a time a couple of years ago where it looked like Swansea were going to buy him for 12 million, and instead he went from Twente to Ajax.
Holy shit.
Interestingly, Hakim Ziyech was actually the guy that Twente signed to replace Tadic when they sold Tadic to Southampton.
Oh, it's come full circle. The circle of life. You didn't know I could hit those notes, did you?
Which notes were those notes?
Well, that was offensive.
It's just a sound.
Anyway, like my singing, that form is all the more impressive. That's Ziyech's form, considering he's returning from injury. And it was his pass that actually put Van der Beek in, who was also great in this game. Is it Beek? Van der Beek?
Van der Beek.
Bake. You pronounce it bake, do you?
Normally in German and Dutch, like a double E often is like an A sound.
If you were going to bake a cake, what would it be?
I like a pound cake. I make a chocolate chip pound cake for my wife.
Wow.
She likes it.
I could smash for a lemon drizzle right now.
Oh, a good lemon drizz.
Yeah, Drizzy in the hizzy.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it was his ball that put Van der Beek in, and then he squared it for Tadic. And like I said, Van der Beek, a constant threat throughout the 90. In fact, there was actually a 19-pass sequence that secured the home side's equaliser. Total football, it's back. They're playing really well, is the point I was trying to make with that stat. Not great. It's a positive showing from Ajax, isn't it? Really pushing to finish top of a UCL group. And they're now unbeaten at home in 14 appearances. Only blemish on the night, I suppose, was giving away the penalty and the red for Maximilian Voba. And I feel for him more so than who? Hong Kong Fooey. What's his name? Thomas Muller, who got the red card for Bayern Munich, because he sort of got the ball and he went over the ball and his momentum carried him into the ankle, and it was reckless, and his other foot was inches above the floor, so I can see why the ref's giving it, but more of an orange than Thomas Muller's. Anyway, how far can Ajax go? Who are the Champions League underdogs? Is it Ajax or Dortmund? Or have you got an option? Let us know in the comments below. Next up, absolutely unavoidable. Have to talk about Manchester United losing to Valencia. Funny how we've become almost apologetic every time we have to talk about United.
So bored of them.
No City beat Hoffenheim, but this is a bigger result. It's a bigger game. And subsequently, a lot of rumours that Paul Pogba might be dropped for the Liverpool game after this performance. But numbers-wise, it didn't look too bad. So break it down for me, Van Straats. I didn't watch the full 90.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Pogba didn't start the Arsenal game either. It just seems like he is not in the first 11 at this point for Jose Mourinho.
Which is crazy.
But yeah, he was recalled for this match along with Fred and Lukaku. But United still managed to somehow go through to the second round of the Champions League, but do it on a sour note after losing 2-1 away at Valencia. Now, they actually edged Valencia in shots on target and expected goals, but still ran out losers thanks to a goal from Carlos Soler, the 21-year-old, and an own goal from Phil Jones. Now, that actually makes Phil Jones the first Man United player to score an own goal in a Champions League match in 7 years, and the last player to do it, also Phil Jones, against Benfica back in November 2011. Very consistent.
Did you see that tweet where it was like, Phil Jones is defending here, looks like a cat trying to bury his on a marble floor.
Jesus. Poor
So
Phil
good.
Jones.
Best tweet of the game week.
Poor Phil. To be honest, at this point, I have no criticisms for Man United players. I just think, like, yes, some of them are bad, but they're not as bad as their manager, who clearly needs to be sacked. After the game, he called out the players saying, "I expect better from my players, especially players that week in, week out ask me, why don't they play? Why don't they start?" Well, if you bench them and then recall them and then play them in systems that you've just moved around at random, or play them in roles that are not their best, or decide to play midfielders in defence, or all your players are injured and then when they come back from injury you don't play them anyway, then ultimately you are going to end up with quite a mishmash side. I mean, I find it extremely hard to look beyond Jose Mourinho for the blame here, because he's clearly aiming things like this at Pogba, and Pogba was probably the best player on the night. Like, does that mean he was good? No, not necessarily. But he led the team in shots on target, and chances created. I'm not really sure how much more he can do by himself. In the second half, Mourinho brought on Ashley Young, Marcus
The big
Rashford,
guns.
Lingard. Oh, yeah. If those are the big guns, it is a bit demoralising, isn't it? But he said he was a little bit disappointed to make those substitutions, because obviously with the Liverpool game looming, he'd rather have them fit. Anyway, United have the depressing distinction of being one of just two sides, along with Porto, to have gone through to the second round of the Champions League, despite having a negative expected goals difference after 6 matches. They finished with 7.32 for and 7.62 against.
Well,
so pretty miserable from them.
And they said we couldn't dig out anything interesting on this game.
They're
Look,
just trash.
there it is.
They're just a trash team. They're just rubbish to watch. I don't want to wish that Man United get better, and to be fair, I don't. I wish that they were liquidated as a club, but they genuinely do deserve more than this. Their players certainly do. Like, that, it's a state.
Yeah, it's frustrating to think that this generation of players are serving their peak under Mourinho, who is not at his peak, let's say. I mean, I can't articulate it in any other way than you have just
It's
there.
like World War I, you know? You've just put a bunch of people with so much potential in the hands of an idiot, and this is what you get. The Somme.
Another one ticked off the list, pound cake, World War I.
Somme.
The Somme, underneath that as a
What's
subcategory. Well, I actually had the unenviable task of digging out stats on Valencia in the second half of this script, and I've got to say, very attritional game, not a lot going on. But here goes, stick with us because we have got a pretty good section coming up. Real Madrid losing to CSKA for the second time in the Champions League. But yes, Valencia struggling for goals this season, having only netted 12 in La Liga, the second worst after bottom side Huesca. And we actually discuss why this is, Valencia's patchy form, their lack of getting the rubber, the green, let's say, on this week's podcast. So make sure you're downloading that on Sunday. But while Carlos Soler, the goal scorer, may only have 2 goals domestically, he's enjoying his time in the Champions League much more. He's now been involved in 5 goals in 6 Champions League games in Group H. And when the 21-year-old features in the Champions League, his shot numbers climb from 1.4 to 2, which is okay, semi-interesting, but now I'm about to drop, the mic. I'm about to bring the noise. But he doubles his chances in the Champions League of getting a shot off in the box.
Okay.
Yeah.
From what to what?
Absolute rock star stats. From 0.4 to 0.8. And it was those and it was those marginal gains that really made the difference here, okay? So his lovely low-driven outside of the boot finish after 16 minutes was one of 2 shots in the opening 26 minutes. That's depressing.
Jesus.
And United didn't manage their first until the half-hour mark.
Bloody hell.
But Carlos Soler also went from goal scorer to creator Patrick van Straten in this game. 4 opportunities created for his teammates, twice as many as United's most productive players, one of them being Pogba, like you said, and as many of the rest of his teammates combined. Did that sentence make sense? Did in my head. Anyway, Danny Parejo and Jeffrey Kondogbia are back at it. They were the midfield partnership that supercharged Valencia to 4th place last season, and Jeffrey Kondogbia has been struggling with injury this season, but back at it in this game. They provided the steal in midfield, completing 10 tackles and interceptions between the pair of them, as well as 7 clearances and blocks. And Parejo in particular is the figure of consistency in that Valencia side. He's always good, it seems, and he's always putting up solid numbers. He was his metronomic self here, 76 passes completed, equating to 7% of the game's possession, only bettered by Paul Pogba with 7.2. And on the subject of Paul Pogba, would you drop him for the Liverpool game? Let us know in the poll just above. Moving on. Last game then, Real Madrid versus CSKA. How did this one unfurl?
Yeah, not well for Real Madrid. They lost 3-0 at home at the Bernabeu. That hands them their biggest ever home defeat in European competition. I think they've lost 11 out of 254 home games in European competition.
Blimey.
Unbelievable. Anyway, it's their first group stage home loss since October 2009. Understandably, they were booed off at the end of the game. And it actually
White hankies?
Well, I don't know, actually. It's hard to tell in that kind of sea of white shirts. But anyway, CSKA, first side in 10 years to beat Madrid, both home and away in the group stage. Now, Santiago Solari named a young lineup at 24 years and 100 days. It was Real Madrid's 3rd youngest starting 11 ever in the Champions League. But there was still enough experience there to think that they'd get the job done. Marcelo, Courtois, Isco, Asensio and Benzema all started. Bale, Kroos and Carvajal all made appearances off the bench. And to be fair to Real, they probably should have had a bit more out of the game. They outshot their opponents 19-13. I think they came out ahead on expected goals as well. But 13 shots conceded at home for Real Madrid is a lot. To put that in context, in La Liga, if they were conceding 13 shots a game, it would rank them 13th in the division. So really not great from them. And against a side like CSKA, yes, they have some interesting talent, but they're not exactly one of Europe's elite, are they?
No, these sound like Lopetegui numbers, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I think they're worse. They're worse than Lopetegui numbers. Lopetegui at least
For
had a plan.
shots conceded,
Santiago Solari is just a bloke.
Just a bloke.
Just a guy.
I mean, their stats, like you said, do flatter them a little bit, CSKA. After dominating the opening half hour, Asensio forced Akinfeev into 3 good saves. Of course, Akinfeev, probably after his 3rd clean sheet in 15 years, and he secured 2 against Real Madrid. Anyway, yeah, they went behind to a curler, Real Madrid that is, from 20-year-old Fedor Shalov. And after that, managed just 1 shot on target in the remaining 50 minutes. So after they conceded, they were just like this. We're through. CBA, and Bale came on and didn't have a single shot in 45 minutes.
Yeah. think he created one chance.
Not at the races does not cover the potency of this Real Madrid side, or the lack of potency even. The other goals came from Shchenikov. That sounds like some sort of skin disorder. And 19-year-old Arnar Sigurdsson. I've got the Shchenikov. My elbows look crusty Shchenikovs.
What are you saying? It's just winds up.
Probably didn't need to dig out his name, did I, really? It was a night for the youngsters. I've got down on the script here. 18-year-old Vinicius Jr. started, becoming the third youngest Madrid player to start a UCL game. The two players younger than that, Raul and Casillas, so keeping good company there. He was pretty much Real Madrid's only bright spot. Attempted 11 dribbles and completed 7. Neymar numbers, more than any other Real Madrid player in a game this season in all competitions. So really bringing the flair. Also had 6 shots and created 1 chance. So it definitely wasn't for lack of trying on his behalf.
Yeah.
Now Solari has won 8 out of 10 managers as Madrid manager, but his other 2 games were both 3-0 losses to CSKA and Eibar. So perhaps that's why Madrid papers have renewed talk of a move for Pochettino in the summer this morning. I mean, they have to print something, and it's normally chaos at Real Madrid, isn't it? So
yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting summer, though. They're going to have to get somebody in. This is nightmarish stuff.
Weird that Madrid top the group and CSKA go out. So
yeah, it doesn't feel that way, does it?
No, that group, boring. Anyway, that is the UCL review until the round of 16. Pato, what else can people watch should they have gotten this far in the video?
Well, Star Wars The League is approaching the climax. Very exciting stuff. We will see who will run out as victor and who will be relegated, along with, is it Jackson or Kieran? It's Kieran who's bottom, let's be real. So yeah, obviously check that out, and I don't know, stay tuned, make sure you like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow us.
Go to Pato's
on
Instagram
social media
for his recipe
Follow
on
Zach
stone
on social
cake.
media.
Is it stone cake?
Stone cake?
What did you say?
Pound cake.
Pound cake. It's not the same thing, is it?
Stone cake? That's not a thing at all.
Most of my baking resembles that of a stone.
There's a rock cake. That's a
Rock
thing.
cake.
Yeah. Bye.
Rock.